Yo, yo, yo. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a new week for the Apex Brotherhood live stream. My name is Richard, and I'm going to be your solo host today because William, the account conquering trader, is in Italy, and he's busy filming for the Trade Delicious Funded Freedom series on YouTube. So you'll just have me today. And I'm also thinking we might have a slightly shorter than normal stream. So I'll be reducing it from 1.5 hours to 1 hour. I need to do some admin stuff before this afternoon. So yeah. So guys, let's just have a very quick disclaimer and then we'll get straight into the market. All right, let's get some music going. And then let me get a chart up. Here we go. All right. I've already had a quick little 1 to 2 on EU and GU. I'll run through those quickly. But first I want to talk about gold. And specifically those of you who trade with the fivers as an example. There were some changes that were made over the weekend. An email was sent out by the fivers talking about a change in both the commission structure and the leverage for certain accounts for certain assets. So for gold, silver, indices, not indices, crypto like Bitcoin, Ethereum, they have adjusted the commission structure as well as the leverage for some of the high stakes accounts. So if you are on a 5k up to just below a 60k, your leverage has been reduced for metals specifically from a 1 to 30 leverage down to a 1 to 15. So they've halved the amount of leverage that you have available on the smaller accounts. And then from 60k and upwards on the high stakes, they have reduced it to 1 to 10. So the reason for this is with the volatility that they've been having. I'm assuming that the amount of people that are basically full leveraging gold and stuff like that has caused quite a bit of losses. So I think that it is a risk management strategy that they are implementing to make sure that people are not going to bankrupt the company in layman's terms. So I tested this morning. So normally the old structure, what you would have on gold, this is gold. Normally you would have a $4 per lot commission. So they've changed the amount now to make it 0.0008% per dollar value per lot, which basically boils down to it going up from $4 to about $6.60 per lot. So that's a 60% increase in commissions on gold. I haven't tested Bitcoin or Ethereum because I don't trade them. I do trade gold though. So I had to make sure that my calculations and risk parameters are set properly. And then also on top of that, the reduction in leverage from 30, so 1 to 30, down to 1 to 10. So that's a 3x reduction. Not that it makes a massive difference for me because I don't generally trade large lot sizes on gold. But for those of you who are trading higher lot sizes with gold, just take that into account that there is a leverage change. And maybe somebody's trading Bitcoin as well as a CFD, then you would also have your reduction in leverage as well. So just take that into account and into consideration. So like I said, I tested it this morning. I took a 0.1 lot gold trade. I took a 0.1 lot gold trade on Friday as well. And that equated to about 40 cents on Friday for commission, whereas this morning it equated to 66 cents. So like I said, that's roughly a 60% increase in commissions. Just take that into account. So I just wanted to show this portion. Maybe to a lot of people, it might not be much of a change. It might not be like, whoa, you know, we're paying so much more for commission. But it is, over the long haul, it becomes significant. So for argument's sake, if you trade with IC Markets has a $3.50 per one side, so $7 round trip for most Forex. And the difference between that, I have an IC Markets account, the difference between that and the Fivers accounts, which is $4 per lot, when I had a look at what my monthly gain was on my IC Markets account versus my prop firm accounts, there was quite a difference. And that is just a $3 difference between the two of the accounts, as an example. So percentage-wise, it's a massive difference. Not a physical dollar difference, because the account sizes are different. But the percentage is different, definitely different. All right, so I just wanted to mention that very quickly. I am going to run through GU and then EU, and then I will explain my trade and what it is that I am looking for going forward for today and then potentially this week. Even though I'm not a predictive trader, I'm a reactive trader, but I do have an idea about what might be ahead for us in terms of technical analysis. So let me start with the trade itself first. So basically this morning, or from last week Friday, we had this bullish day, which was still in line with the bullish momentum that we had starting roughly around Thursday to just Wednesday, late Wednesday evening, Thursday morning. We started pushing a little bit bullish, even though we're still a little bit, we were bearish. We slowed down, became absolutely flat, and then from there on we started to attempt to push higher. And Friday we pushed higher than this section over here. Okay, let me just switch that over. That's annoying. We pushed higher than basically Monday on this month, Monday's high point, which was the high of the month so far. So on the month we have just wicked above the high. And anyway, so what I wanted to see this week was a continuation of what last week ended. So I wanted to see bullish momentum start coming in yet again. And what happened was the New York low, which is roughly this section over here. If I drew a box from the last time that it attempted to push lower before it continued rallying up, is this box. And you can see that we, this morning, during the morning hours while I'm asleep, we came back into it, tested it, but we didn't really push off of it super strongly. I would have wanted to see price push and at least test this swing point as an example. But nonetheless, we started pushing a little bit higher, attempted to come down again, failed, started to push, made another high, a higher high in relation to the previous one, and then also a higher low in relation to the previous low as well. And then we, at the end of Tokyo, we started pushing strongly back into this bottom box down here. However, we didn't even close remotely or like deep enough into it, and then we started pushing up. And as we started pushing up, we made a rally base rally. So the idea was, okay, we've had at least one, a very slight second one, and then a third test off of this area over here. Obviously, it established on Friday, but it got tested first thing in the morning, and then the reaction was off of this little box over here. So I just pulled that one back, as this one is now no longer that strong to me. This is now the stronger level. So basically meaning that underneath here, there might be some liquidity, but if we were to come and test it now, we'll probably see it take all of that and attempt to push higher, or it might just hit that and absolutely tank lower, but it needs to break lower than this point. And anyway, so rally, base rally on the close of this candle, took the trade. I took a 1 to 2. I wanted to make sure that price did not really push higher than this line over here. No, sorry, not that one. Over here, which was the high of the day. I wanted to see if we, as we pushed into this, whether or not we would pick up some liquidity and start pushing lower. So wasn't too worried about it not reaching this point, seeing as we've already made a higher high on both, not a higher on both, but a higher high from this high over here during Tokyo. So that was the GU trade. Now the overall direction, let's go over to the daily first. We'll do a top down. On the daily, you can see that we are very bearish. So started pushing lower. When there's an attempt to push higher, it fails, it pushes lower. When it does come and retest, it retests this daily base area over here. So I'll just draw this out. Let's make sure that it actually, there we go, anchors. So made a high, or it made a lower high in relation to this high over here, and made lower lows in relation to these lows. When it attempted to push higher, it failed, started pushing lower, created a base, started pushing lower from there, creating yet again another low in relation to the most recent low. So the most recent structure over here is basically broken. And then the most recent structure, if I just take that point over there and pull it back, you'll see that it's definitely a lower low. And then technically this was almost an equal low, but or equal high. But the point stands that we're pushing lower all the time. This one just needs to break, so somewhere over there, break and close. So the structure was showing that we were starting to push a little bit lower, making lower lows as we go and lower highs as we go. So the idea is that we're looking for an area to be tested, but we're also looking for price to continue going lower. Now, unfortunately, from Wednesday onwards, we started getting, well, not unfortunately, but from Wednesday onwards, we started printing more bullish candles in relation to the bearish candles, which could potentially signify that we are trying to push bullish yet again. Whether or not we're going to succeed is a completely different story or a completely different discussion. But the point stands that we're still bearish, but now we're starting to see a little bit more interest from buyers to try and push it up. This is on the daily, so a whole 3 days of bullish pressure over the bears, meaning that the bears are really struggling to continue pushing this trend lower, and the bears are attempting to break this downward structure. So if I just go back a little bit, we can see that this area that was tested over here is basically this last block. And if you pull it a little bit further backwards, you might see that there is potential areas of interest. This is way further back, but the point stands that you attempt to break lower, and then when you do break lower, you break lower quite strongly. When you come and test it again, it reacts off of it. I wouldn't say strongly, but when it reacts off of it, it continues pushing lower. This is on the daily. So here we had the same idea, just wicked it pushed lower. Here we tested it quite deeper, meaning that at this point at least, the bears had completely lost the fight and the bulls had taken over, pushed it way above. If we go to the left, there is another area over here that basically could have been tested, pushed lower yet again, and so on and so forth. So you get the idea that over the long term, this area does seem like a good area of support / resistance. So in this case, on the daily, we started pushing a little bit more bullishly. The bears have seemed to, I wouldn't say given up, but they don't have that momentum on their side anymore. So if we go down to the 4 hourly, we can see this also a little bit more clearly. Price pushes lower, breaks this swing low, pushes strongly lower, and then absolutely loses all of its momentum pushing lower. Now, instead of making a consolidation and then breaking out going lower, it made consolidation and started pushing higher. And then the next attempt that GU had to push lower, it failed. This was on Friday, and then it closed bullishly yet again. So as we're going lower down on the time frames, I am expecting to see us either be in consolidation or with the attempt to push bullishly. I'm not really seeing the bearish confluence pushing us lower like it did over here. When the attempts were made, it was lackluster, large wicks underneath, big candle bodies. This is on the hourly. Starts to push higher. When we have consolidation, it's short-lived, and then higher price action, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and so on and so forth. So I'm expecting to see price push up a little bit higher. Where can we test? Well, there's a multitude of areas for us to test just on the hourly already. So this area over here, price pushed lower. So here we have consolidation. And then a break, price pushed down volumetrically, nice and strongly. When it attempted to test again, it's over here, started pushing lower, and you'll happen to notice that it's also in line with the low of London of the previous day, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this could be a very nice area as well. So what you can do is you can probably drag this whole area as a point of interest. It was an area where it started breaking lower, broke this low, retested it, failed, and started pushing lower. So I do like this whole area over here as a potential area of interest for pound. If it were to come and test it, that would be a nice area to have a look at. Then we have this whole area of consolidate, well, not flat consolidation, but like weak consolidation. This box over here, price, when it was trying to push higher and lower, it just didn't really have anything in it. But it makes sense because we were close to this swing point. Am I going to see it on that? Yeah, we were at this low, the swing point. So it makes sense that we started getting some, a little bit of a headbutt between the buyers and the sellers at this point. The sellers trying to push price lower, buyers trying to buy up and push it higher from this wicked area, or this low area. And then we just kind of trudged around this area, and then eventually we started breaking lower, and we broke lower strongly. So if I just remove that and I look at the area where it really failed, it was somewhere over here in this area where you have a massive wick above, no candle closures close to it. So this area over here, we really had the loss of it pushing lower, pushing higher, sorry. The bears completely took over here. And then one final attempt over here to try and push it bullishly again, or to try and break this attempt to take it lower, failed, and then we started pushing lower strongly. Price came back to it, tested it, and then started pushing lower. But then at this point, the bulls had already started taking over again. No more selling to push us lower. So this area down here was an area of interest, basically. So price attempted to push lower, failed, pushed higher, attempted to push lower, failed, and so on until it eventually lost all of its steam and started pushing higher. So as it stands right now, I'm still very much bullish on GU. We've made this channel. We're starting to push higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So the question is now, we've already broken and closed above this area that was tested previously, and price tested above it, broke above, pushed back into it, and now it seems as though it wants to push higher. So my question is this our next testing area? That is probable. We also have a drop-based drop over here, which is the next price point, and it's 31.85, which is very close. It is 16 pips away. So I think we can test this lower point. I don't think that this is strong enough of an area for us to react off of. I would really like to see this area up over here be tested. So that would be 32.47. So it's quite a ways away, but it can be done today, I think. Yeah. So that is 76 pips, which I don't think is unreasonable. If we look at a news day like this, we had 66 pips, and this was on Thursday. And then Friday, we also had... On Friday, we also had almost 80 pip movement as well from the low to the high. So it's not unheard of. Sorry, it's not unheard of for price to move that amount of pips in one day. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at GU pushing bullishly. I would like to see it break this area over here initially. I want to see it tested and break through, and then I want to see it come to this support / resistance area up over this point of interest for me. So as it stands right now, this area is now no longer applicable because we've closed above and we've not broken lower, and then we're starting to push higher. So going down to the lower time frame, 30 minutes. I don't generally use the 30 minutes. I'll just go down to the 30. Sometimes I like using the 30 minutes just to see if there's a base area that I'm not seeing on the hourly, but is a little bit weak on the 15. Then maybe it might be on the 30 minute. So right here, this was the last time that price pushed bullishly after, or attempted to push bearishly after bullish momentum picked up. Price came back into it, like I explained this morning, and then I've taken this trade. So that is me on gold. Not gold, on pound. Pound, I am bullish at the moment. I would like to see it break higher, and I would like to see it close higher than this box over here. If you're an intraday trader or you're a scalper, there is a lot of opportunity for you to potentially take some buys. I mean, here had a bit of a consolidation on the 5 minute and then a push higher. So on the 15 minute, this is effectively a 15 minute rally base and then a continuation of the rally. So you could have, if you did the rally base rally, you could have entered on this for a, let's see what a goal, not a GU long would have been on 1 to 3, maybe a 1 to 2. Yeah, this seems a little bit more reasonable, knowing that we have this area over here that can be tested, which had a slightly higher high in relation to the previous wick. So this is something that you could have done. But obviously, having already had a trade this morning, I don't really need to take another trade this early. We don't have any news today either, so whatever price action we're going to have today is going to be purely based on what the market wants, meaning that news tends to sway the market. It tends to divide the market, let's rather say. Some would say, yes, this confluence more towards bullish, this confluence is more towards bearish. But if you have very little news and price is trending, then it tends to be what the market wants. It tends to be in the direction that the market wants. So it's safe to assume, even though we don't have any news right now, that the market would want to attempt to push a little bit more bullishly, seeing as without news, we have bullish structure. I'm going to quickly say hello to everybody in chat before I get to EU and then potentially gold. First in this morning, as always, MGN, good morning, brother. How are you this morning, mate? Martin I15, good morning, Martin. How are you? Martin I, Richard, did you heard about deep charts? I have not heard about deep charts. Care to enlighten me? And then I can see what it means. But obviously, I'm not going to discuss something that I have zero knowledge of. I would need to go and research it first. But yeah, I've not heard of deep charts, so please enlighten me. Alex this morning. Peace. Good morning, love. How are you? In the Wilds, Strage. Good morning in the Wilds. How are you this morning, mate? Pooley, morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Pooley. How are you this morning? Dave Rankin coming in. Morning, everyone. Good morning, Dave. Bearskin Jobber. Good morning, mate. How are you? And then Annie as well. Good morning, fellas. Good morning, Annie. Yeah, glad to see everybody in. Guys, if we can just drop a like, potentially a subscribe if you haven't. I would love it if you guys would share it as well. Just to people that you think might be interested in this kind of content. Yes, unfortunately, this week is going to be a little different than normal. I'm trying to get some guests in so that I have someone to talk to, so that you don't have to just hear my voice permanently for the whole week. But because of the fact that Will is in Italy this week, and he will be in Italy the whole week, so Monday through to Friday, there is a potential that he's not going to be available any of the days. It really depends on how his filming structure is going for the series that he and Ewan is filming for Trade Delicious. Oh, and by the way, guys, for those of you who don't know Trade Delicious, it's Jordan Meller, who is let's call him the CEO / owner of Trade Delicious. They are a trading company that also runs on the idea of transparency and openness in the market, but they are blending more of the fundamentals along with technical analysis, and they have a newsletter that they bring out, I believe it's every week, which looks at the fundamental movements in the market, the higher macroeconomic experiences, so, and then the impact of that. So you guys can also go and have a look at Trade Delicious. I think I do have a link to their Discord, and I will just post it in the chat. Then you guys can have a look at that if you want to. But if not, go to the YouTube as well, to Trade Delicious's YouTube, and then you can go and have a look at Will being an absolute trading genius, trying to trade his way through Italy for a whole week. That should be pretty interesting. I'm going to post that one in the Discord, so you guys can have a look there. Right, let's have a look at EU. EU had a very, very similar movement for me as GU did. The only difference is EU on the daily has been quite bullish over the long term, whereas pound, if you have a look at pound on the daily, well, it's pretty much the same. Same idea. Very bullishly, and then started pushing bearishly, and then it's trying to push bullishly yet again. EU is the same, but it's a little bit more flat. So this section over here, even though it's pushing higher, it's not with conviction. It is not like this area over here where we had convincingly higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and so on. Here we have a little bit slowed at the top, and then it started pushing bearishly. So the same idea on that we had on GU is the fact that price, it pushed for a new high, and then instead of making, it made a higher low, but instead of making a new higher high on the daily, it started pushing lower. And the most recent swing structure is over here. So it just wicked lower than that previous swing point. And then normally what you would want to see is you would want to see price push strongly off of this point, seeing as there's potentially a lot of liquidity sitting down here. Because if you look at it, you've had 4 days in a row where you've had bullish momentum, and then a failure to make a new high, a big wick, and then instead of making a lower high, thinking that this area has a lot of sellers coming in for 3 days, it started pushing bullishly yet again. So it starts from this point, it starts pushing lower, and then you would think, okay, so even if this was a structure, if this was the 2 points in which it was hopping, and then you would want to see a directional change, you would have expected it to wick and then really push higher. Seeing as we've already made a higher high, this is still technically higher low in relation to these highs, or these lows, sorry, and then this high is higher in relation to this one. You would want to see price react off of it, and that we did. We see price react off of it, but then it loses all of this upward momentum on the daily. Big wicks above. You will see it on the 4 hourly and on the hourly as well. It's just minimal upward conviction. So you can say that for these few days over here, we were a bit consolidative, and then price started pushing lower. We've made a lower low in relation to the previous low, as well as these lows over here. we've made lower lows in relation to these ones as well. And then it was only until we reached down here between these two lows that we actually started seeing some sort of bullish reaction yet again. But instead of making a higher high, we made a lower high, started pushing lower again, made a higher low, but then followed up by a lower high yet again. So a little bit of indecision in this area over here, priced for for like 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks. There was bearish momentum and then bullish attempt to push it higher yet again. And then we just tanked. Full week of bearish momentum. We pushed lower than this low, and then we're starting to push higher or attempt to push higher. 4 days of bullish momentum. It is stronger than the previous bullish section. So there is a potential for us to attempt to come and test these highs over here. So let's say just this section over here, there is an attempt to maybe come and test this. But EU to me is slightly more bearish than it is on GU. GU is showing that it wants to start pushing higher. EU was a little bit more flat and then pushing lower. So I'm still a little bit on the fence with EU, even though the structure looks very similar. It's the fact that EU is making, when it does move, it's not making massive moves in relation to GU. GU is still the stronger movement overall between the two. More convincing, let's rather say. But I can also still see price just fail to push higher and then just start pushing lower. Now, this is on the daily. So if we go down to the 4 hourly, you'll see the same idea. Lot of consolidation down here and an attempt to push higher. We've basically closed a little bit lower than or opened a little bit lower than what we closed over on Friday. And it's just, I want to see price push higher. I want to see this area over here on the 4 hourly as an example. I want to see this absolutely broken through and then see it push higher. But as it stands right now, a little bit subdued, a little bit slower momentum on the 4 hourly. It looks good if I zoom in a little bit. It does look good to attempt to push higher. It's not bad, to be dead honest. On the hourly, we've had this area of consolidation over here, which we've broken above, and then we then sank lower than, and then now we're trying to push higher again. So not entirely sure we have massive bull momentum. It is bullish since of last week Wednesday. Same with GU. It started pushing up, making higher highs and higher lows, higher high, higher low. If this closes higher and closes within this box, then I would say we're definitely bullish. And then I'd probably look for some bullish trades later in the day. 30 minutes. Don't really care about the 30 minute. 15 minute. Same idea. But this reaction over here wasn't off of an area. So you have a little bit of consolidation here. Oh, maybe that is it. Here's the consolidation here. Yeah. So consolidation, attempt to break lower, no momentum, push through it, a failed retest, push higher. Yet again, another failed retest. The day opens up lower. So we have a bit of a gap. Pushes into this area of consolidation, reacts off of it. Okay, so this is definitely an area of interest now. Seeing it was consolidation, break, fail to push lower, break through to the opposite end, test it, and then continue higher. Okay, so we're definitely bullish on Euro as well. Same idea that we had on the 15 minute on GU. We have a rally, a base, and then another rally, a confirmation, with a nice little highs up over here as well for us to test. So this point over here is a nice little high. So if you wanted to, this would have been a very nice, what do we see on this one? 1 to 3. Oh, that's great. Could probably even have been a GU one as well. Yeah, 1 to 2. So on EU and GU, I trade them ever so slightly differently in terms of the amount of stop loss that I have. But this would have been even down here, for, let's say 7 pips as an example. So 7 pips, and this to 14, 14.4 as a 1 to 2. Possibly a good trade. Yeah. The only issue is we need to see these highs broken. This high over here and this. So this whole box, this whole section here to be tested. And then we'll see what kind of reaction we have here. It is nice and strong though. This does look like a good bullish momentum on EU as well. So I do like this. I think initially it looked like it potentially could be pushing lower on the higher time frame, but on the lower time frame it really does look like it wants to attempt to push higher. So yeah, there's that for you. Dave saying great TA. TA? Target? Trade analysis? Trade analysis. It's probably that. Infinity in good morning, Infinity. How are you, mate? Good to see you. Who is trading what? Is anybody in anything, or has anybody been looking at something to trade? What are you guys looking at? Drop a comment. Let's talk about what you guys are seeing and what you guys are doing with your trades. You see, even on the 5-minute, EU is looking really good to push higher. We've every time on the 5-minute. I'm just going to delete that one because it's no longer applicable. But if you look at areas where price attempted to push lower, here's an area over here where price attempted to push lower, and it's higher lows, higher highs. It's just nice and bullish. So even if you took this whole candle, this whole bearish candle over here, this one, and you took it as an area of consolidation, let's say price not push lower and push lower and close lower, let's rather say something like this. Price attempted to push lower, failed, and then broke above, attempted to push lower, and then failed, and then started pushing up yet again. You can have this whole area as a potential area of bullish pressure. So you could have taken a trade on the 5-minute as it closed above this box, as an example. You could have had your stop loss just below the box, and then you could aim for a 1 to 1, a 1 to 1.5, a 1 to 2, and I think it would have been a decently good trade overall. Ideally, you would have wanted to be in this a lot earlier. So, as an example, this candle over here, you have a rally, an attempt to push lower, which is a base, and then a continuation higher. You have this candle proving that you want to push higher, because if you wanted to push lower from this point, you would have printed yet again another bearish candle, and then price would have tried to push bullish, failed, and then started continuing pushing lower. So in this case, this is a very nice area from which you could have taken a trade. Now I know this is hindsight, but the concept still stays the same. So if that was an entry point, the same idea would have been, this is EU, so an EU long like that, or a EU 1 to 3, something like that. It's the idea that, at least what I'm looking for, is something like this. Even though we started pushing bearishly from the tops of Tokyo, meaning when we had the attempt to make a higher high, we failed, and we started printing a little bit lower than the previous swing point. Price pushed lower, but it didn't close lower than the area of interest. And then price tries to push higher, looks good, and then there's an attempt to push lower. And when there's an attempt to push lower and it looks something like this, so you have a Let me remove this, and then just move that one out of the way. And then I'll also just get rid of that. So if you just look purely at price action, it attempts to push lower. We've already established this area as an area of interest because we've had strong reactions off of it, or at least the reaction was in one direction, and when there was a bit of a pullback, it was very short-lived. Price wicks into this area. So you have, number one, a reaction off of an area of interest. And then with this reaction, it starts pushing higher. And then the opportunity for it to push lower, it fails. It doesn't push lower as it's supposed to. It wants to start pushing higher. So when you have a candle like this one, where you have a massive wick below it in relation to the candle body, and this is also in the direction of the last attempt, meaning the attempt was to go bearish, but it failed, so it pushes bullish, so the test is bullish. It attempts to push lower, it fails, and then it starts picking up. You want to be in a trade over here. You can have your stop loss lower than that most recent swing, like over there, or you can have it where it failed on this candle as an example, and then you can just aim for a structure that was tested previously, or you can have a set 1 to 2 as an example. So this concept is what I'm always looking for in my trades. When there's an attempt to push lower, fail. It doesn't want to push lower. It wants to push higher. And you see it in the candle characteristics. You see it in the setup. If I basically took this whole section here as an area that I'm viewing, what do I want to see happen here? I want to see this tested over here. I want to see a reaction push lower. Like, just to give you an example, even though you can see it in this box, if we just take this box as an example, you can see up over here, this was the high, and then the very next opportunity to push higher, it fails, and then it starts pushing lower. And then when it has yet again another opportunity to push higher, it fails yet again. So there is a potential for a trade there. You have 3 bearish candles, 1 bullish candle, and then a bearish candle. This is potentially a trade as well, even though it is against what we've been seeing. This could have been a trade as well. You could have had your stop loss just slightly over there, slightly lower than or higher than the previous swing, or the point where it basically failed to push higher, and then you can aim for a 1 to 2. This is a much smaller trade, way more scalpish, but the point still stands. Like, the same concept that I'm showing here can be done on the higher time frame and the lower time frame if you just know what it is that you're looking for. Annie Root saying TA technical analysis, and then Dave coming through with thanks, mate. TA, mate, thanks, mate. Yeah, so two different viewpoints on TA, which is trade analysis or thanks, as in TA, thanks. Dave Rankin, thanks, short. I'm on gold, infinity. Okay, I'll get to gold in a moment. Now, this one is unexpected, yeah. In the wilds, waiting at the moment. Gold already pushed into Asia, in Asia, so I'm waiting. Monday is not a day to be chasing. I agree with you, because the problem with Mondays is that over the weekend, Fridays, obviously we have the Forex market that closes, but there's still trading that takes place. So if you imagine there's people that are traveling, they're still putting in trades through an exchange, and then on Mondays, that exchange activates. That the trade that was done on the weekend activates on the Monday. So Mondays tends to have like a backlog of trades that is waiting. People that have put in trades on Friday that just left over the weekend, let's say. And I'm saying people, I mean, like, there could be industries, it could be hedge funds, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying, using people as a means to the participants. But the participants probably put in a trade on Friday with stop losses at certain points, and then on Monday those get triggered. So you might have slightly more volatility, or you might have zero volatility on Mondays. And I know that's like both sides, glass half full, glass half empty kind of like thing, but the idea is still that Mondays is a deceptively tricky day to trade, because generally the previous week's highs and lows, or the previous Friday's highs and lows, first need to be tested before a lot of people, or in this case industries, would decide to take their trades. So it could be subdued, or there could be something that happened over the weekend, like a tweet or a war or a macroeconomic event that reacts only on the Monday. The market only reacts on the Monday because it's closed over the weekend. So Mondays, I agree with you in the wilds. It is not a day that I generally would be chasing, but I do like trades on Mondays because my setup reacts on Mondays quite well. And I've been seeing Fridays have also, where I used to in the past be very careful with Fridays. Fridays has become quite nice for the way that my strategy and what it is that I look for sets up. So I'm still getting into the idea of trading Mondays as well. And then MGN, I'm in an EJ long. Let's have a look at EJ. That's a yen pair. Nice. Yeah, this makes sense. This does. We have this area over here that was gapped. We filled the gap, but we also just wicked underneath it. So even if it was filled, we would have wanted to see price push lower. We've been seeing it push bullishly, continues pushing bullishly. We have an area of consolidation over here, which is what was tested. We have another area of consolidation over here, which was also basically reacted off of. So buys looks good just on the 5 minute, on the 15 minute. Oh yeah, no, very, very, very bullish at the moment. We have this area of consolidation up over here that was tested. So this is the area where it will come and test, and it is very close to it. Where did you say you got in? You got in 178. I'm just going to go down to the 5. MGN, did you enter during Tokyo? So here the end of Tokyo, I'm assuming. So buy 1788, 17828. Oh no, you took it on the break. So the break and close. So 28 is over. Oh, it's up here. Oh, it's a high. It's very high. I would have expected you to take it somewhere over here, being a break, failed retest, and then continuation. But nonetheless, okay, so 2, 8, 5. So over there, your target is 178471. 471. Okay, and then your for TP1, and then potentially 754. 754 is way up here. Okay, so you're targeting these highs over here. Okay, all right, so target number 1, you said was 471. It's target number 1, and then target number 2 is 54. All right. I like target number 1, but you would want to see how it reacts off of target number 1. Target number 2, I feel like we first need to break this reaction point, because we had a very strong reaction off of it. Where this area over here, it was a little bit subdued. little bit of consolidation, attempt to push lower, failure, retest. So this area has already had one retest, a strong retest. So I would say target number 1 first needs to be tested and absolutely broken through before I would say target number 2 comes into play. And then your stop loss, where's your stop loss? Probably somewhere over here in this area. I would say maybe there as an example. But are you going for 1-to-1s, or what are you going for, negative or positive risk reward? This is 18.6 pips. So a 1-to-1 would then be also 18.6 pips. Somewhere over there. I mean, it looks good. But like I said, ideally you want to see this area over here just broken through and at least come and test the top end of it, which is right there. So you want to see price above your target number 1. You want to see it push higher than this line. So potentially just above this, you might have some interest to attempt to push it lower. Just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth, which is that just an opinion. Ideally, that is what I would want to see. I want to see this over here get taken, price push into it, and then react, an attempt to push lower, and then fail that attempt, and then push higher, and then yet again another attempt to fail to push lower to try and go up into that area over there. That's what I would want to see if I had target 1 and target 2. But you know exactly what it is that you are looking for. But yeah, it looks good so far for at least trade number 1, or take profit number 1, which should be hitting very soon. But yeah, it looks good, mate. Oh, 1-to-1. Okay, yeah, makes sense. So 1-to-1 on the first one. Dave Rankin saying, a number of brokers have weekend trading on FX using the futures price, and these kick in at market open on Sunday night. So generally, Forex trading, you're not on the futures, yes, because then you're trading futures, but you're not really trading CFDs. So the CFDs are Mondays to Fridays, not over weekends. So yeah, you might have futures, but not CFDs. First TP is a 1-to-1 R. Yeah, looks good. Gold. I wanted to have a look-see at gold. I'm just going to remove all of these drawings, and then I'm going to go to gold. I don't generally do this. So with this now already out of place, and this was just a test trade just to see whether or not I haven't traded gold. The idea that I have is I'm looking at four assets at the moment, and I'm splitting up my assets into 2 assets in the morning during the London session, and then 2 assets to look for trades in the afternoon during the New York session. So I've been looking at the NAS 100 and gold to trade during the New York session, and then EU and GU to trade during the London session. I get a lot of really good trades with my setup on EU and GU during the London session, and then it kind of like drifts off ever so slightly during the New York session, because the New York session just doesn't have, it's just not pushing the way that I want it to push. Like if you just have a look over here, that this was Friday, obviously it being Friday, very, very subdued struggle. Previous day as well, or the Thursday, you had lovely movements. It just really pushed nicely as we were exiting the London session and pushing higher on the New York session. So I'm still looking at potentially introducing it there as well. My EU and GU trades into the New York session, but majority of my trades happen during the London session, and that's where I get the most of my setups. But when it comes to gold, I like the way that it moves during New York. New York's movements look pretty good to me. Here you have consolidation effectively, and then as we're getting close to the New York session, it just starts tanking, and then it looks lovely going into New York. And then when we reach a low and we start pushing higher, there's reactions here that look good. So that's what I'm looking at, introducing it gold into the New York session as a trade idea. And then obviously the NAS 100 as well. We have some good movements during the London session, but like as London and New York overlaps, we're getting great trades. Same thing here, just kind of like dwindling slowly up, but then volumetrically as we get closer to the New York session opening up, we start seeing proper nice candles, nice, like this is on the 5-minute drop, base, drop, base, drop. We have an attempt, start pushing lower, and then as we come to the end of the session of London, it starts dwindling as well. You can see it here as well. It is pushing lower, tempting to push higher, push lower, and then when we get into New York, massive drop down and attempt to push higher, and then it drop down lower again. As we get to the end of it, it starts slowing down, and then we start seeing reversals. But this is Fridays, so obviously Fridays a little bit different on NAS. But so far, gold. Let's have a top down on gold quickly. So you guys know, normally when I look at a pair, I take all of the drawings off and then I start anew, so that every morning it's like I'm looking at the market in a fresh perspective. Just to see if I can still see the same thing I saw the previous week. As an example, gold has started to swing bullishly. This is on the daily. So I just marked up this resistance point up over here this morning while I was looking at that potential test trade, because I didn't want to take a test trade that was going to be a losing trade. I wanted a test trade that was going to be a winning trade, because who's going to test in order to fail? No, you test in order to either win or to learn. And the learning in this case was to see if the commission had changed. But other than that, didn't want a losing trade. Anyway, so this was a double top. If I go down to the 4-hourly and 1-hourly, you would see it's a double top up over here. I'll go and show it to you just now. We have a bearish 1-hour base that started pushing lower. We have a support and resistance area of interest up over here, where price attempted to push higher with this bullish candle here, and then it failed, started pushing lower. But now we have made a double, triple low point. If I go down to the lower time frame, you'll see price pushes into it, reacts off of it, attempts to again, and then fails and starts pushing higher. So I'm starting to see a bit more bullish confluence in gold. Where can we test? Well, obviously the very first test point would be the 4,110 to 4,160 point, which is soon to be tested. Going down to the 4-hourly, we have, you can see what I mean here. We made a low, we started pushing up, we attempted to make another low with this candle over here, failed, it pushed a little bit higher, but we still hadn't tested these high points over here, pushed back lower again, creating the area of interest, basically, because you don't know that this is going to be an area of interest up until it gets tested. It's only after it's been tested that you know, okay, it is an area of interest. So basically, I wait for at least this to happen. So reaction, and then an attempt, and then a failed reaction to push again. So this low point and this low point over here is what I need in order for an area of interest to be developed. Price came back into it and then reacted off of it yet again. So over here, price just touched it and then started pushing higher. Now we're starting to see some nice volumetric movement. Now, another thing to take into consideration as well is if I just take these highs, basically over here, just this, as the top and bottom end of the structure. This was last week. Last week, I remember mentioning that gold to me is stuck in this range. I need to see a breakout either lower or higher. In this case, we have finally gotten the higher break this morning, signifying that we are now going to push bullishly. So one of two things. I want to either see price come back down to test this area and then react off of it, or I want to see it just absolutely gun higher. The thing about gold is it tends to have very short-lived retracements. Obviously, this is a much longer retracement in relation to what we used to get as it was pushing higher. But in general, short-lived retracements, strong trending movements when it breaks. So in this case, we've had this double area top and bottom that was tested the whole time over the last 2 weeks or so. And now we're finally seeing the break. Now I want to see this area over here be tested, and I want to see it react off of this. I either want to see it break straight through it, or I want to see it wick into it, push lower, fail to push into it again, and then start pushing lower. So, but as it stands right now, a little bit more bullish than bearish. On the hourly, we go down, there's that double top area with the last attempt for price to push higher, and it just absolutely failed, and then we had this massive sell-off. So this bearish base of mine is a very high confluenced area of interest, but obviously we have this double top, which is also a very high confluenced area of interest. We have when we had the sell-off, we had an attempt to push higher, failed, reacted off. So this is also still an area of interest for me. We can possibly have it adjusted something like this, where price attempted to push higher, failed, retested it, failed, tested it one last time, and then absolutely just fell off. Not as strongly as over here, because you have a lot more buyers coming in to try and push this sell-off, try and break the sell-off here. You can see that there's a lot more bullish candles in relation to the previous time. So this area to me is an area of strong interest as well. But there's more competition here. There's more buyers and sellers fighting against each other to try and break. The bulls are trying to break the downward trend, and the bears are trying to overwhelm. But there's a lot more participation here than there was on this section over here. This was an absolute tank sell-off. Very, very, very little bullish intervention whatsoever. And once we had the bullish intervention, it was short-lived. So this immediate area over here is the one that I want to see tested. Like I said, 4,131. It was 4,110, but I'm breaking it or making it smaller and smaller and smaller until I can see an area that had real, proper test reaction. It touches it and then just falls off. So as it is right now, this area where we are currently, it does not look like a bad area of testing, as an example, because if you just zoom in, you'll see that there was a little bit of consolidation, an attempt to push lower, and then when it started pushing lower, it did so volumetrically, it did so convincingly. And then when there was an attempt to break this downward trend, it was short-lived, and then was strong reaction from it yet again. So this area is not a bad area, in my opinion, to be tested. I think that this will definitely be a stopping point if it were to reverse from here before we reach this point over here, where we are currently. We've wicked, but we haven't closed above, and then we're starting to print a 1 hourly bearish candle. However, this is still, it only just opened up, so there could be just a little wick below and it starts pushing higher. So gold right now to me, 4 hourly, let's look at the 15-minute. 15-minute also bullish, the same as the 4 hourly, same as the 1 hourly. We're starting to print higher highs and higher lows. We have short-lived areas of consolidation over here, break, short-lived areas of consolidation over here, break, and then we had this little sideways action of last week, which made higher highs and higher lows, but it was very subdued, very short-lived. Now we're starting to see real upward momentum, real strong bullish candles, bearish, short-lived, strong bullish candles. So a little bit of consolidation here in this boxed area that I marked out. I want to see price break through, retest, and continue. That's what I want to see. I want to see gold push higher, attempt, and then just gun for this next area. That's what I want to see. However, the inverse, what is available on the opposite end? We do have this area over here of interest where price can potentially, if it fails to break higher, can start pushing a little bit lower and come and retest this. Below this, we have an area down here. This is on the 15. What does it look like on the hourly? Yeah. We have yet to have a pullback on the hourly. So technically, if there were to be a pullback, it should be happening from this point. On the 15, is this the base? Yeah, it is. With the reaction, so a strong push, little bit of indecision, and then another push, break and retest, and then continuation. So if we're going to see price push lower, it's going to be from this point where we are now, and it needs to then fail to push higher and then start dropping lower, and then we'll test this bottom section, which is 4,050 and 4,040 initially. And then below that, it will be 4,000 flat, basically. So 4,000 and 4,007 area to be tested. But if it does break above this 4082 and close, then retest the 40 between 4080 and 4064, and then fail and then start pushing higher, then it can definitely come and test 4130. That's what I am thinking. That's gold. Gotta go. Cheers all. Happy hunting. Dave, have a good day, mate. We'll see you later in the Fiverr stream, hopefully. All right, I think that is pretty much it. NAS, I can have a look at NAS as well. NAS had some consolidation. It seems as though it wants to break now. Nice consolidation, bit of a break. What can we test? What do we have as a testing area to the left? I do like this. This doesn't look bad as an area to be tested. And then obviously above and beyond it's this, but before we get to that, this was the last area that it tested, was this. So we're breaking. I would like to see NAS, as it's breaking, come and test this. Either fail to break through and start pushing lower, or I want to see it break into it, fail to close lower, and then start pushing higher. Those are the two things I want to see happen on NAS. Obviously, we do have this gap. Do we have the gap here as well? Yes, we do. So there we still have a gap to be tested. Here we have a small little gap on gold as well. So gold and NAS has a gap that needs to be filled. Obviously, the gap that we had on EU was already filled, and GU didn't have a gap. So, yeah, potential for it to come and retest this gap. Though I don't know if we're going to see that today. Maybe during New York, but not as it is moving right now. I mean, how much does it need to lose from its current position down here just to fill this $300? So to go from 25,446 to 25,138. we do have this hourly base area on the 15-minute base area. What does it look like on the 5? Oh, this is actually a nice area. Yeah. This is a proper area as well. That's why that's why we were consolidating here. Indecision. So it needs to break this whole section as well. So not just this consolidation over here. Let me change this color so it can be... Oh, no, that was the wrong one. That is consolidation, and this is a 15-minute bearish base. Okay, so this changes things a little bit. This has to happen. We need to see a break, a retest, a failure, break into this point, failure to break lower, and then a push higher. Whereas this one here, we need to see it attempt to break and fail, or maybe just close slightly above, push a little bit lower, fail yet again, and then start pushing lower from there. So these are the two things that I'm seeing on NAS at the moment. NAS does look bullish though. So I'm leaning more towards the first option. Definitely more towards this one. But it begs to be seen. All right, guys, I think I am going to call it here. I need to go and do some, like I said, admin stuff, you know, household chores and whatnot. So thank you, everybody, for joining in today. I know it was, I wouldn't say unexpected, but like, let's say it was a little bit more boring with the fact that Will is not here, so I don't have anybody that I can riff off of. But hopefully there was some... I don't know, good trade advice, let's say. And maybe you guys learned something from it. Or maybe you just agreed with what I'm saying and you just wanted to use it as a confluence for your own trade. Or you disagree with me completely and you're like, well, if Richard thinks this, then maybe we should go the opposite direction. So whichever. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for joining me. For those of you who haven't, please drop a like. And if you haven't also, please drop a subscribe. Really appreciate it if we can get us to 100 subs, which I do believe we can get to before the end of the month. So I would really love you guys' assistance in that. And then, yeah, share it if you think there's people that would enjoy this kind of content. And then I will see you guys in the Fiverr stream this afternoon, where I would potentially be alone as well, because I don't know if Will is going to be there. But if you guys don't see me in the Fivers, you will see me again tomorrow morning, same time, London Open, for yet another Apex Brotherhood live stream. All right, guys, have a great day. See you all later. For those that I don't, see you guys tomorrow. And then, guys, don't forget, jump into the Discord. We have a bunch of fun things that we're doing there this weekend on Friday. For argument's sake, we had a nice little poker night, but it was poker and then some other games as well. So we made a little game night as well. A lot of fun, a lot of laughs, a lot of entertainment. So if you guys haven't, get yourselves into the premium so that you guys can join us on the Fridays. But it's not just that. There's other things as well. There is Ewan, that is a personal trainer that has a bunch of stuff that he does as well. Training related to try and help people get fit and mentally healthy as well. Because along with mental health goes physical fitness. So yeah, get you guys in there. If not, that's okay. All right, guys. See you guys later or tomorrow. Cheers.